Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that probably not a lot of you have heard about very much, but it does star and it's directed by somebody who a lot of you are probably going to recognize. This film is called Mr. Saturday Night, and according to the box art of this film, it is the directorial debut of Billy Crystal, even though obviously he starred in a lot of films before this movie. It came out in 1992, so obviously he was in a lot of films by this time. He was already in Hit When Harry Met Sally. He was already in The Princess Bride. So he already was in a lot of films already by this point. But he never really directed a film until this film here. And like I said, it came out in 1992. But in Mr. Saturday Night, loosely based off of a character he used in SNL and some other formats, he plays a stand-up comedian who has this really successful run when he's younger. He really kind of finds his success on accident. The film goes into detail on how like him and his brother were at one point going to be a two-person act for his stand-up shows, and his brother kind of chickened out at the last minute. So it really just kind of became himself on his own, and the brother became the agent for him over the years. And so the film depicts both his success and kind of his fall from fame. We get to see kind of the later part of his life, kind of closer to retirement, where he's struggling to land gigs. Nobody really wants to see him perform anymore. And so he's really kind of struggling to land gigs at a later point of his life. Him and his daughter really don't get along or stay in touch very well. His marriage with his wife is kind of fizzling out. They're getting along, but they're not really, passionately in love with each other like they were from the beginning. There's a lot of parts of his life that really kind of fall apart. The film kind of goes back and forth from present day to the past, and how certain things about how like his wife almost ended up with his brother at one point, but then obviously the ended up being his wife instead of his brother's and stuff like that. There's things about how the daughter kind of looked up to him when she was younger, but as she got older, that became more and more difficult for him to stay connected to his daughter. And so there's all these things that happen over the course of Mr. Saturday Night that show the rise and the fall of a stand-up comic who really had a huge prime at one point, but it really fell apart by making a lot of bad choices, a lot of bad public appearances, and really just kind of the typical fall from fame celebrity that really didn't know kind of how to stay relevant with the times. But overall, guys, I enjoyed Mr. Saturday Night. I didn't absolutely love this movie. As you can tell by my synopsis, it's not a very um, conflict heavy slash plot driven movie. It's just more so about this depiction of the stand up comedian and kind of his life and how he got started, how he got famous, and kind of the fall from fame that kind of ended his career in the long run. But I like the film. There's things about it that I really enjoyed, but there's also things about it that kind of wear it down, that kind of prevent it from becoming a classic for me. So for those who really enjoyed Mr. Saturday Night, I'm very happy for you. There's things about this film in particular that I really enjoyed, but there's things about it too that really kind of wear it down from becoming a classic for me. So for my positive Mr. Saturday Night, I think first and foremost the chemistry of the two lead characters of both Billy Crystal and his brother, played by David Paymer. That's him back here on the cover. I've seen him in another couple of other comedy projects over the years. Probably one of the more notable ones I remember him being in was the Grumpy Old Men movies. But he is really good in this movie. Him and Billy Crystal, when they share the screen, the chemistry of these two leads is just absolutely magical. They definitely reach a level of drama and comedy that really is very, very impressive, whether that's written or directed by Billy Crystal at all, is really kind of genius on his part. They really felt like two brothers that had a long history with each other, both agreeing with each other and disagreeing with each other on certain things. I had no complaints at all regarding the two chemistry of the leads and the brothers in this movie, because both David Paymer and Billy Crystal are very, very good in the lead roles in this movie. The film also really depicts how fame and success can both excel you and destroy you. How there's scenes where Billy Crystal's character is talking about how when you're on stage, when you kind of have the spotlight, when you have the audience laughing and get them going on the right thing, you really kind of feel like an unstoppable force because you're kind of in full control. You're in full control of your comedic abilities, and you really kind of can't stop. But the film also depicts how fame can kind of destroy you, how when the spotlight isn't on you anymore, when you're not landing gigs anymore, when people don't think you're funny anymore, it really can kind of destroy you and really beg the question of why you exist, and how um, just taking away this something that's so valuable to you and why you're alive, and when that's taken from you, you really don't feel like anything anymore. And so there's scenes in the movie that I think that depict both of these things very, very well. Rather that's the rise of success for this man, or things that ultimately led to kind of his um, decline in the show business industry and stuff like that. It really does depict the rise and the fall of the celebrity in a very good way. Another thing that was really impressive in this film, and I think it really is based off Billy Crystal's smart directing in the movie, was the transition from young to old characters. How he really made it feel like, even though we're watching a younger actor playing a younger version of a Billy Crystal character, it really felt like we were watching a younger version of that Billy Crystal character, and how we were watching a younger version of his brother and a younger version of the wife and things like that. There really was very smart casting and directing choices that really made it felt like during the entire runtime we were watching these exact same characters, almost from the same exact person playing them the whole time, just because the transition from young to old for these characters really did feel consistent. There was consistent personality traits and things like that. So I thought that transition from the flashback scenes to the present day scenes really felt very impressive, because it really felt like, even when it wasn't Billy Crystal playing a younger version of himself, it felt like the same person the entire time we're watching the movie. So I thought those transitions were very, very smartly directed and very smartly acted in this movie. And that goes up to my next positive point. There really was some smart directorial choices from Billy Crystal here. Whether it was, like I said, the transition from young to old characters, or kind of depicting the more dramatic stuff of certain characters and kind of their fall from fame and their rise from fame, kind of the rise and the fall in fame for them and things like that, and showing kind of the smaller, more darker moments of their life and things like that. So there was just a lot of choices here that I thought were very smart from a directorial standpoint from Billy Crystal in the movie. For my negative of Mr. Saturday Night, though, why probably it won't become a big classic for me or anything. The film, unfortunately, is very slow moving. It really has a tough time getting started. Um, it really does have a hard time um, kind of deciding what it's going to be about and what timeline it wants to stay consistent to and things like that. And near the beginning, too, it really does go from past to present, past to present, past to present in a very unsmooth way at the beginning. So it is a very slow-moving film from beginning to end. And like I said, it really has a tough time getting started as to what exactly the film wants to be about. Another negative I have with the movie is, for being a film about stand-up comedy and about, being in the moment with your comedy presence and things like that, some of the humor in this film really, unfortunately, is very flat. There's just a lot of scenes where the stuff he's telling on stage really isn't very funny. Even though I'm sure it's funny to the characters in the script of the movie, to us as the audience, there's just some scenes that are just kind of hard to get through, just because the humor is kind of flat and not very good. So I thought some of the humor in this film could have been notched up a little bit more, because some of it, unfortunately, is kind of flat from a humor perspective. I also thought the film could have gone deeper into the highs and lows of Mr. Saturday Night's career. Um, yeah, there's a couple scenes where maybe we show like the darker moments of his later life and things like that. But as far as like what really kind of crushed him in the end, they really don't go over that very well. Yeah, there's moments where it's like, okay, that gig didn't go over very well. Okay, it didn't go over with his fans. Maybe he shouldn't have said that live. Maybe he shouldn't have done this on stage and things like that. But for the most part, besides just kind of seeing in moments in the movie where we kind of see him being successful or not so successful, I really thought the film could have dived deeper into more a psychological perspective of what exactly broke this person, what exactly um, kind of made his career end ultimately. Yeah, like I said, there's hints of what happened, but at the same time, they're not really super deep as to the psychological part of the highs and lows of the Mr. Saturday Night character, and unfortunately, that really does kind of hurt the film a little And also, there's a lot of side characters in this film that I just were not interesting to me. Um, Helen Hunt's character in particular, I thought was really kind of pretty throwaway in this movie. Her performance was fine, and she's always good as usual. But her character, there's another character that's kind of shown it during the end credits and things like that, where it's just kind of a little throwaway scene he was in and stuff. Um, so some of the side characters really weren't very interesting to me, and that's really too bad because when we transition from young to old characters, I feel like I'm watching similar personality traits and good character development and things like that. And unfortunately, with some of these side characters, they're really not very interesting and not written in a very particularly interesting way either. But overall, I'm going to give Mr. Saturday Night an 8 out of 10. I think it's a good film. I think it's worth checking out at some point. I can't rush you out to go grab this one or anything. It has been out since 1992, like I said. So I think there's better films to see of the 90s over this one. But this is pretty good. There's things about it that I really liked. Like I said, the chemistry of the two lead brothers in this film of Billy Crystal and David Paymer really were very good here. But like I said, there really was some negative things about it, like the slow movingness of the movie, the tough time getting started in the movie, the flat humor, should have gone deeper into the more psychological side of Mr. Saturday Night, and just a lot of side characters that really weren't very interesting to me from the beginning at all. But 8 out of 10 for me. I do like Mr. Saturday Night. I liked it enough to recommend it, but go into this film knowing that it's not a perfect film and there are some flaws about it.